Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Costain. Andrew Barbour, an innovative farmer's field lab farmer for Mains of Fincastle Farm in Scotland, is researching the value of bokashi, treating manure with microorganisms that break down animal bedding and dung. I spoke with Andrew and I asked him what bokashi is and how it could be useful to farmers.
Bokashi is a fermentation process. It's a Japanese word to describe the fermentation of any organic matter. So it's a fermentation process rather than an aerobic composting process, which is the way people think of mostly as treating farmyard waste products. And the reason it's potentially useful is that it's a preserving technique, just as fermentation is with foods, yogurt or whatever. It's just, or silage indeed, in food for animals. It's a processing technique to preserve the nutrients and the goodness in, well, we call it a waste material, but it's not a waste material, farm manure. It's as everyone knows who's a farmer, it's gold.
Is it a way of accelerating the decomposition process?
Well, we're an organic farmer, so there's limits on how long we have to store material for a certain length of time, because the straw that comes onto the farm isn't organic. So that's one of the things about an organic production system. But it does speed up the process. You can well, speed up the process. You're not comparing like with like, and that's the problem. But the typical treatment process time for bokashi is claimed to be about 8 weeks. So compared with composting, proper windthrow composting, then I think it probably does speed that up. We're not familiar with that process, but from our point of view, in an organic system, the bit that we're really interested in is at the other end, is at the application end, and you can apply it to any ground. You can apply it to a ground you're going to cut that season, which we wouldn't do with ordinary farmyard manure stuck in a corner of a field somewhere. You would only apply that to grazing land. So that's a big win for us.
Andrew, could you tell us a bit about your farm and how you expect to use the bokashi?
Well, we're using the bokashi on our in-by parks, and on this farm we have be about 70 hectares ploughable. We run this year we're in the shed what will be about 60 suckler cows and followers. We've run 700 sheep on the farm. Very much an upland farm, so it's rough grazings dominate what we have. But the bokashi will be going on the parks that we cut for hay, haylage, silage, whatever the weather allows us to do. So, and that's where we're keen to see the best nutrient cycling. Obviously, that's the engine of the farm.
So is the bokashi being applied to manure that's coming out of the sheds in winter, for example, or is it being applied directly to the fields?
No, you apply the bokashi is a kind of process, but you apply the brew of bugs. And you can buy these, or you can actually make them yourself if you're so inclined, but we've been buying them within this trial. And it's a brew of bugs, lactobacilli, yeasts, various things. And you spray it on with a watering can, basically, onto your bedding. You start with a small amount as you set the bedding out, and as you top it up, you add more. But the way we've done it and the way we work our sheds, we're not a deep litter system, we're a shallower system. So we apply the micro brew just before we clean the shed out. And then the act of cleaning it out mixes it all through. Then you store it in a heap, as tight a heap as you can, and put a sheet over the top. And the sheeting is the crucial bit. And that's a kind of new bit, because most people don't bother doing that. That helps cut out the leaching as well, but it creates you're trying to create an anaerobic environment for the muck.
Now, you're running a 3-year experiment on your farm. What is it in particular that you're testing?
We're looking at the composition of the treated product against the more conventional stuff. So that's the standard chemical composition. We're looking at also just the practical aspects of handling, which I know other people have learned and do, but it's important for us. How does it handle? How can you get out in the field? the project unfortunately doesn't have enough money to look at the soil health aspects, but we're going to do that anyway because it's really important for us. So we're looking at we'll do the standard earthwork count, but also we'll look at the bacterial fungal composition in the soils as well.
Is bokashi something that you could add to slurry stores, or is it particularly for outdoor dung heaps?
As I understand it, you can apply the technique to slurry, but I don't know. Because of it's all about getting your carbon nitrogen ratios right, and slurry obviously has a low ratio there. So what else you have to do to it, I personally don't know, but the process can be used for that.
Do you expect bokashi to help reduce nutrient leaching as well?
Yes, I mean that's one of its great claims. It's a preserving technique. So you preserve the nutrients, and the indications from our analysis is that is happening. So the analysis we've done would tend to back that claim up. But you're also in not losing the same amount of energy out the system as you would with composting, and losing much less carbon out the system. So you're retaining more of everything in it. That's the attraction of it, and the indications from what we've done would support that idea.
You've talked about some of the soil outcomes that you're hoping to see, but could you tell us a little more about the way that bokashi affects the way that manure interacts with the soil?
Well, the theory, and we can't test this within this project, but the theory is that it makes the nutrients that are in the dung more available. And as long as you've got your carbon nitrogen ratio right, which is a key thing for us, then you're making more available the nutrients in the manure pile for both the bacteria and the fungi to work on. That's the theory of it. We're not in the position to test that because that is a major, multi-thousand-pound project to look at that in detail. But the indications are very positive.
Would you expect the use of bokashi to accelerate the production of soil organic matter and to improve water and nutrient cycling within the soil itself?
If you're adding more carbon to your system and it's not being volatilized off as carbon dioxide, then yes, you would be doing that. The more organic matter there, the more water retention is, the better water retention potential in the soil. So all of the things you say would be true, and you don't learn about increasing soil carbon content over a 1 year or 2 year period. That's a longer time game than that. But we've put in the sample points so that we will be able to tell that, but probably have to wait 5 years plus. So we're collecting data. We see it in a longer time frame than just the short time frame of this project. Maybe we'll get more money out of the innovative farmers to look at these aspects later. But anyway, and I should say other people have been doing this, particularly in the southwest of England. So we're not doing something particularly new, but we're in a very different situation. Upland Scotland is a very different environment from Cornwall or Devon.
Now, you've said that people can produce their own bokashi, but you're buying it in. Is it expensive? And do you have any sense of the cost benefits?
Yeah, costs you about £4. But in terms of the brew, the microbiological brew, it would cost about £4 a cube of muck of the farmyard manure. And when you look at both the claimed and also our analysis would back this up. If you look at the benefit of the retained nutrients, you're immediately in a positive cost benefit analysis. But the real value, so in that calculation, it makes sense. There's also the benefit to us of being able to spread it onto any field, regardless of whether we're grazing or cutting. And as the weather gets worse, and it is getting worse, it's more unpredictable, life is more difficult than it used to be, choosing when you're going to get onto fields and do things on fields. That is a huge benefit. So we see a very positive relationship in that cost benefit. Difficult to put an absolute number on because it's hard to quantify those kind of things. But just in terms of the nutrients, then it pays to apply.
That was Andrew Barbour from Mains of Fincastle Farm in Scotland. More news, as ever, on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back soon. Thanks for watching.